All right, everybody, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of Birds on the Farm. As always, I'm Sandy. This is Kareem. We've got our names and faces in the right spot today, so no weird switch at the beginning. I don't know what number episode is this for us, Kareem. We've been doing this a good while now.
I think episode 8, right?
Okay, yeah, episode 8. But if you've been following along, this Birds on the Farm it's an affiliate podcast of Doing the Cards that we started late last fall. Basically, it's a good time for us to come on here, use Kareem's immense talents in analyzing the farm system, and bring you guys some news about the future of the big league club. So if you haven't been following along with us, make sure you start doing that. We've already had some exciting guests. We got to talk to Nolan Sparks. If you didn't see that interview, go check that out. He was an awesome guest. One of my favorite players I've ever gotten to talk to. Super fun. And we've got a lot more exciting stuff for you guys coming up. Today, we've got a loaded thing. It's a mailbag episode, so we've got some exciting questions to go through. But first, there's a little bit of news to talk about. We now have a lot of clarity on who the Cardinals are going to be signing with their international bonus pool money, so we're going to talk about that. They also claimed a pitcher off of waivers from the Tigers. We'll be talking about that a little bit. There are some prospect updates coming up, so lots of exciting stuff to talk about. Let's just get right into it here. So the international bonus pool, that's something, basically, it's how teams acquire talent from countries that are not the U.S. and Canada. So where players aren't eligible for the draft, you have a certain amount of money. This is really reductive. You have a certain amount of money that you can spend. You allocate it differently. It's honestly a lot like the draft bonus pools. But it basically lets you choose whoever you want to sign. Now, a lot of talent has come out of the international pool. Ronald Acuna Jr., a notable international signing. Other guys like Julio Rodriguez. So some huge names who've had a lot of success at the MLB level. Unfortunately, if you're a Cardinals fan, you might not know a lot about the pool because in recent years, they've really struggled. Let's talk about it today, though. Kareem, who are the Cardinals supposed to be signing at the end of this period?
Yeah, Sandy, there's some intriguing guys. Obviously, I might not be the one that knows a ton. Like it's tough to really evaluate these prospects without, the data. There's limited video, obviously, but Ben Badler of Baseball America wrote detailed reports on each of the top 100 players. As far as these aren't the top 100 players overall, but these are the top 100 highest bonus pool allocated money players in the whole class. And the Cardinals actually have 5 names on that top 100 list. And I think the signature, the guy that is being seen as the top player that the Cardinals added in this international bonus pool is outfielder Royal Strop. Now, if that name sounds familiar, yes, he is the son of former Cubs reliever Pedro Strop. And Royale is one of the top outfield prospects in the Dominican Republic. He's known for his bat speed. He's got power already to his pull side with an ability to hit the ball to all fields, but the power really coming from the pull side. His hit tool, some scouts note, swing and miss concerns with him. But his plate discipline is, supposedly good. And, hopefully he could be someone that puts up high walk rates in the Cardinals minor league system. And he's also got impressive barrel control. Strope's a guy that's a plus runner with the potential to stick in center field. His defensive instincts are somewhat debated, but he has a above average arm, and scouts believe he has room to improve as he matures. Now, like I said, I don't really know a whole lot about these prospects. The reports that I'm giving off of them are, from Ben Badler of Baseball America. By the way, you should go check out Baseball America. They do phenomenal stuff. I think their subscription is well worth your money. So that's Royal Strop. He seems to be the most exciting guy. He's 31st ranked on Baseball America's top 100 bonus board, and he's signing for approximately $1.5 million, which is like 27% of the total pool money for the Cardinals. MLB Pipeline also has him ranked in their top 50 as the 28th overall prospect in the class. So definitely seems to be the headliner in this year as far as international signing goes for the Cardinals. But there are a few other exciting guys. Juan Rujano, he's a catcher from Panama. He's 6'3" already. This is a power over hit profile. He was 66th ranked on Baseball America's top 100 bonus pool, projecting for more than 600,000 in pool money. He's one of the top prospects out of Panama. He's got serious power potential, and with that 6'3" frame, scouts believe he can add even more power to his game. Obviously 6'3", that's pretty hot. That's
It's pretty big.
Catchers. Yeah, pretty big for a catcher, but he shows good actions and a solid average arm, which scouts believe he can improve on as he adds strength to that frame. The third ranked guy from Baseball America's top 100 bonus board is Kenley Hunter. He's ranked 68th overall, projected to sign for more than 600,000. He's the only player besides Strop to make it onto MLB Pipeline's top 50 international prospect list, and he came out ranking as the 37th overall prospect on their board.
Well, that's a pretty big disparity.
Yeah, but once again, these are top 100 by bonus pool, whereas MLB Pipeline, they're doing top 50 overall prospects. So that's where you get a little bit of the disparity. But Hunter is a really exciting prospect out of Nicaragua. He was someone that shined at the U18 World Cup Americas qualifier, hitting 423, and he also made the all-tournament team. This is a guy that was a former shortstop, now outfielder. He's got plus speed, a strong arm, and scouts believe he has the tools to be a standout defensive center fielder. He's got an aggressive approach at the plate and pairs that with a quick right-handed swing, which produces a ton of line drives across the field. Now, the fourth guy that Baseball America has on their top 100 bonus pool that the Cardinals are projected to sign is Miguel Hernandez, shortstop out of Venezuela, and he's projected to sign for more than 500,000. Hernandez is someone that's got fluid actions at shortstop, soft hands, and good footwork. This is someone that they project to be a solid defensive shortstop. At the plate, he's got a short right-handed swing with gap power, with a very pull side heavy approach. Now, the fifth guy that the Cardinals are projected to sign per Baseball America's top 100 bonus pool board is Jefferson Portalatin. I butchered that last name.
I don't know how to say it.
But he's a shortstop out of the Dominican Republic, switch hitting shortstop, more advanced from the left side, but he's got solid pitch recognition. And although he might not have any standout tools, he's got solid average speed, arm strength, and his glove should make him a likely middle infield contributor. So those are the five guys that Baseball America has on their top 100 board that the Cardinals are projected to sign. Tomorrow, actually, Wednesday is when the international bonus opens up. So teams will be able to officially sign all these guys tomorrow. I'm sure we'll hear about a lot of additional names beyond these five guys, but these seem to be the five most exciting guys just based on how much they're going to go for in terms of money, with Baseball America projecting these to be the top five for the Cardinals. And really excited. Obviously, Royal Strop seems to be the headliner in this class. Yeah. And it's cool seeing, this guy being a former big leaguer son makes me feel old because Pedro Strop was someone I watched pretty much his whole career, and to see his son already being a prospect in
crazy.
The Matt Holliday now. Yeah, it's crazy to me. So those are the five guys. Obviously, it's tough not having access to the data and everything, but these are everything that I said. Credit to Ben Badler. I just read his reports, and these are some of the things that stood out to me based on what he had in those reports. So be sure to check out that article by Baseball America. But yeah, these seem to be the top five players that the Cardinals are adding in this year's class.
Yeah, I mean, some things that stick out to me from that list, it feels like a lot of high ceiling players, which is really exciting. Also, last time the Cardinals signed a catcher out of Panama, good stuff happened. So, I mean, obviously I'm excited to see them going back there again. Obviously, the last player they signed out of Panama was Ivan Herrera. He's currently the best international signee on the roster, I would say. I mean, you could say Wilson Contreras, but the Cardinals didn't sign him. The Cubs did. Yeah, I mean, this sounds like a pretty exciting list to me. Again, some high ceiling players you're talking about. big power potential, guys that could stick in center field long-term, plus runners, good physical tools. Those are the type of players we want to see the Cardinals go after in an international signing type of environment. But at the same time, I think it's a little frustrating for me, especially, and other Cardinals fans, to not see the Cardinals signing a guy inside the top 30. Like, what are we doing here? There are 30 teams and 30 guys inside the top 30, and you're telling me the Cardinals couldn't nab one of them? What is the story here? I think if you go back, the Cardinals had some successful international signings roughly 12 years ago. And those names included Alex Reyes. They included Carlos Martinez. We talked about this pre-show. They included Oscar Taveras, who we don't really know what Taveras would have been. Obviously, very tragic what happened to him. We don't really know exactly what Alex Reyes could have been had he stayed healthy. And honestly, Carlos Martinez's career is full of question marks too. But outside of those guys, and since those guys, really, the Cardinals have had a lot of trouble in the international market. They really haven't produced a ton of value there. And for a team that's as good at drafting as the Cardinals are, if you look at WAR rankings from all position or all organization production or whatnot from the draft, like homegrown talent, the Cardinals have produced more WAR from draft picks in the last 10 years than any organization except for the Houston Astros. And the Astros got to draft in the top 5 a lot to produce that class. The Cardinals didn't. So this is an organization that is drafted so well. If they could just supplement it, they don't have to get lucky and pull the Shohei Ohtanis of the world, right? They were never involved in those sweepstakes, but they don't even have to pull the Ronald Acuna Jr.'s, the Luis Roberts, the Fernando Tatis Jr.'s of the world. All they have to do is go out and land like solid role players. I mean, like, why can't the Cardinals produce strong international relievers? Why can't they produce an international starter? You know, like, what are we doing? And what has gotten the Cardinals to this point where there really is almost no value on the current roster from international signings?
Yeah, I think as Cardinals fans, you probably want to see them go after some of the more, top 10, maybe top
Show me
15.
Ethan Salas.
Yeah, you want to see them go after some of the highest rated guys in the class. But I wouldn't necessarily say that's even the problem. I think as far as just player development in the Dominican, summer league, I think they can work on that. I think they can add a bunch of roles there. I'm not sure what they're going to do under Chaim Bloom and whether that's going to be, there's going to be a lot of emphasis on that. But I feel like if the Cardinals can improve the scouting, I'm not sure if it's like a scouting issue per se. I think the development, especially when you're talking about guys that are 16 and have a lot of projectability to go, I think that's what they need to work on more so. And like you said, we haven't seen a lot of success over the past, decade in terms of the Cardinals having guys in their big league team that, were signed internationally. Obviously, Ivan Herrera comes to mind as someone that they signed internationally, and he's looking like someone that's going to be a very, very good player for this team, 2025 and beyond. I love the profile with him, but other than him, are there any other guys on this roster that were signed internationally? Like, I don't think so.
Jose Fermin.
But the Cardinals didn't sign him. I meant players the Cardinals signed internationally.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of anybody. Pedro Paez is from Venezuela, but he was drafted because he attended university in the States.
Yeah.
Aside from him, like Brendan Donovan was born internationally, but he was drafted. Gallegos was traded from the Yankees. He was an international signing, but not for the Cardinals. The same goes for Wilson Contreras. Like, really, there is basically nobody on this roster that's international. And it's kind of strange because it just feels like other teams are like finding a lot of value. The Cardinals' best international signings are generally older players who come over as free agents. They're not amateurs. Miles Michaelis is a success story for the Cardinals. And I know last year and this year aren't going to be fun, but you can't undermine the greatness that he was able to achieve in St. Louis over his first 4 years. If you look at even like a Drew Verhagen, Kwang Hyun Kim, like these are really successful signings for the Cardinals. I'll probably get some backlash. Drew Verhagen was better than Cardinals fans thought. I'll stand by that. They've had some successful signings in that arena. I just don't know where that is for the amateur bonus pools. I don't know. Something interesting, a thread here. I was looking through the Red Sox current top prospects. there's some really great names in here. So if you look at, obviously Chaim Bloom in charge of the Red Sox until 2023, I want to say, right? Some of these guys, their number 4 prospect, Franklin Arias, he was signed for $525,000 in the 2023 international pool. He's their 4th ranked prospect. He's a top 100 prospect on Pipeline. They have a great farm system. So he's a Chaim Bloom signee. He was their 2nd ranked prospect in that class. Their 1st ranked prospect in that class, Yoelin Cespedes, who obviously has some pedigree there. He is their number 5 prospect, $1.4 million out of the Dominican Republic. He's earned comps to guys like Howie Kendrick, so it's pretty high praise. Their 6th ranked prospect, Miguel Blaze, another international signee from the 2020-2021 class. He's got good bat speed, good projectables. Even some of these other guys, Luis Perales, this guy, a great find for the Red Sox. He's their 7th ranked prospect. He's a right-handed pitcher. He's actually up at the big league level now. Really strong fastball. $75,000 signing out of Venezuela in 2019. So the Red Sox have shown a consistent ability to mine the international bonus pool. A lot of that happened under Chaim Bloom. So maybe the Cardinals get back to doing that. But you could be right. It could just be player development. They could have been signing talented players this whole time and not developing them properly, which would be really frustrating. But again, that's something Chaim Bloom can help with. So do you see things getting better on the international amateur front? Do you think the Cardinals will get back to creating value there and being able to supplement free agent acquisitions, trade acquisitions, and draftees?
I hope so. And I mean, with the direction the Cardinals are going in with, prioritizing player development more, I think these prospects that are, signed internationally, I think it's going to be fun just keeping track of some of these guys and how they progress in their careers, because I think that speaks a lot of volumes into how, the player development is in the organization, because we're dealing with a lot of raw talent that need a lot of developing. So I think I'll be watching that for sure. But I think with the Cardinals putting more of an emphasis on player development, I think we should see, the ramifications to that as far as the international prospects that they sign. But we'll just see.
You know what? One other thing, I guess it's not fair to say they haven't signed anybody talented. They've traded those guys away. So, I mean, those guys have brought value into the organization somewhat. Like Randy Arozarena, international signing. Obviously, that trade didn't work the way the Cardinals wanted it to, but that's a good example. Sandy Alcantara was an international signing for the Cardinals. But it's also important to note these guys were signed way back in like 2013, 2014. So still, like the Cardinals between 2015 and 2020, I think really struggled to find any value in the international amateur market. And it's something that we talked about this pre-show, and you were rattling off guys in the system that some of these guys we're going to be talking about later in this episode, which is exciting. But guys that are international signees that have a lot of potential. So that's really good. So maybe things have already started to change, but the Cardinals right now are feeling the effects of multiple down classes in a row where like the draftees are performing well enough. They had big name acquisitions like a Paul Goldschmidt or a Nolan Arenado that were the backbone of the team for a few years, Wilson Contreras, but they're not supplementing that with additional talent. And when you have a talent gap, the size of the gap between the Cardinals and say the Cubs who are going out and finding these guys, or the Brewers, especially like Jackson Chourio, that guy's a stud, like the Cardinals need to find guys like him to sort of fix this talent gap. And I think that's something that if they can fix that with Chaim Bloom, can make a huge difference, because that's for a lot of teams in the modern game. I would say that's a top 2 or 3 way of adding talent, impact talent to your roster. Like you have to be able to do that well. Look at the Padres, man. Oh my goodness. So hopefully that's something the Cardinals can do. But enough talk there. We'll see how that goes. Really excited about these guys. Some other Cardinals news before we get into our questions here. The Cardinals claimed left-handed pitcher Bailey Horn off waivers from the Detroit Tigers. That's a name I've heard. So that's usually a good sign if they're making something like that, if I know who the guy is. But tell us a little bit about him. Do you see him maybe making an impact on the Major League roster this year?
Well, Horn is someone, he pitched 18 innings at the MLB level this year with the Red Sox, or this past year, 2024. And he struggled. He had a 6.5 ERA. The peripherals weren't great either. He struck out just 13 batters, and he walked 10. But what did the Cardinals see in this guy? I think Horn is someone that's struck out a ton of guys throughout his minor league tenure. The strikeout rate was just 15%. in the major leagues with the Red Sox in a small sample, but Horn had a track record previously of striking out guys at every stop in the minor leagues, with a career 29% strikeout rate. His go-to pitch is a sweeper that in the major leagues he used 60% of the time. It's a pitch that grades out well. He gets 16 inches of glove side movement on it, 0 inches of induced vertical break. The pitch gets elite spin rates, sits around 82 miles an hour. I think that's really the calling card for Horn, that sweeper. It's a really good pitch. His fastball sits in the mid 90s with 16 inches of vert and 6.6 inches of horizontal from a 5.8 vertical release. So typical release, nothing special. It's a pedestrian shape, but the pitch being 95 obviously adds a little bit more to that profile, but I think it's like a fringe average offering for him. It induced whiffs at a high rate at AAA, but the effectiveness of that is kind of uncertain, just considering the shape is pedestrian. I don't know how it's going to perform at the next stop. And we saw that pitch. I know it was a small sample in the major leagues, but he didn't use that pitch a whole lot in the major leagues. He really leaned on that sweeper more. The pitch performed well against lefties at AAA, but the damage on contact against righties was really bad for him at AAA. Against righties, Horn has more of a kitchen sink approach. At AAA, he threw 4 pitches at least 16% of the time. The sweeper had actually the lowest usage against right-hand batters, while the curveball that he throws at 77 miles an hour gets a ton of depth and spin. It's a solid pitch that worked well against righties. He also throws a gyro cutter at 88 miles an hour, which performed at a decent clip. But the four-seamer wasn't nearly as effective against right-handed batters. So I think trying to improve the arsenal against righties, whether it be at a pitch, potentially a changeup, splitter, something to keep right-hand hitters off balance with a whiff-inducing pitch. I think the curveball is solid, but I think he can certainly improve on those right-handed batter situations. But I do think that he's quality depth to have at AAA, and I think the Cardinals have added a ton of guys that are going to be pitching in AAA that are going to provide quality depth for the relief pitching core in the minor leagues, whether it be Michael Gomez, Odiner Mosqueda that they got in the Rule 5 draft. We talked about him last episode. Roddery Munoz, we're unsure what role he'll be in, whether it be a starter or a reliever, but I think his upside is definitely more exciting out of the bullpen if he can add some velocity. And obviously now Horn to complement guys like Matt Swanson, who was added to the 40-man, Andre Granillo, Jack Ralston, Riley O'Brien, Ryan Ludus. Like there's a lot of names that are going to be at AAA or potentially breaking with the big league team that are going to provide depth. And we saw last year with guys like Ryan Fernandez, Kyle Leahy, Chris Roycroft, they stepped up big. And I think in a similar vein, a lot of these guys that they added this offseason, some of the guys that we saw a little bit of, whether it be Riley O'Brien, I know his results at the Major League level weren't quite good, but I like his stuff a lot.
I like him. Obviously, I like him a lot.
Yeah, obviously Ryan Ludus as well. He didn't pitch a whole lot, but he had a quality year at AAA. And then obviously guys like Andre Granillo, Jack Ralston. I think the relief pitching core in the organization at AAA, there's a whole lot of talent there. And I think these could be guys that get a shot at the major league level as early as 2025. And I think having this sort of depth is really important for a team.
Absolutely. I mean, the Cardinals, if there's 2 things you can have faith in with the Cardinals, it's developing catching talent and knowing that they'll find relievers somewhere. Like every year the Cardinals have found an elite closer, even when it seems like absurdly unlikely. You go back, Ryan Helsley, his first few years at the big league level, nothing special. And he's morphed into arguably a top 3 reliever in the game. Jordan Hicks, a guy who had a ton of success with the Cardinals. Obviously, he was streaky, different stretches where he looked a little lost. The control was an issue, but Jordan Hicks turned into an elite closer. Alex Reyes was a guy that marred by injuries, most notably the one where he punched a TV, very unfortunate, broke his hand. But he was able to come back for the Cardinals and in 2021 made the All-Star game as a closer. Like that was awesome. And he was awesome in the All-Star game too. After the All-Star game, not so much. But even like a Bud Norris that the Cardinals were able to sign, and he turned into the closer at one point for this team. Like they've been able to make it happen. And so, yeah, I have a lot of faith in the Cardinals being able to build a solid bullpen next year. When the Cardinals bullpen's been bad, I don't even know if I'd blame roster construction. Now, there are times the Cardinals, they're not good at signing relievers. That's fair. Brett Cecil, terrible. Luke Gregerson, terrible. Greg Holland, awful. Garbage, right? Like these guys suck. Andrew Miller, terrible with the Cardinals. But the Cardinals going out there and finding guys, looking for high upside plays, they're not all going to work. You're going to end up with your Riley O'Briens that get hurt or don't have great stuff when they get up there. But you're also going to end up with your Ryan Fernandez's. And that's what the Cardinals have been able to do. So the list of rando Cardinal relievers that step up big is very long. I'm a big fan of those guys. I mind that list for sure. Obviously, I'm a John King supporter. I plan to be a Michael McGreevy supporter wherever they use him. I was an Andre Palante supporter when he came up in the bullpen. So huge fan of these moves. I love to see the Cardinals do stuff like this. And maybe Bailey Horn makes no impact for the Cardinals. But like you said, it's emblematic of a larger systemic approach to building a bullpen. And I think they've done a really good job with it. So I do have faith in that. Now, the second thing I was talking about having faith in for the Cardinals is catching talent. And that is a great segue into another piece of news here before we get into our questions. Baseball Prospectus, according to Kareem, has revealed their top 101 prospects list today. 4 Cardinals made the list. The usual suspects are there: Tink Hence, Quinn Matthews, JJ Wetherholt, but notably, number 4, Jimmy Crooks. Okay, that's huge for the Cardinals. Another catcher making the list. This is just another guy in a long line of successful Cardinals catchers trying to follow the legacy of Yadier Molina. But if you think about it, Carson Kelly was on these lists. Ivan Herrera popped up on these lists for a time. And it's good to see Jimmy Crooks make the list. There's more catching talent in the pipeline as well with Leo Bernal. Even all the way down to like a Sammy Hernandez has made some noise in the lower levels of the system. So very exciting. What does this mean? Jimmy Crooks exploded onto the scene last year. He's someone that Cardinals fans should start learning his name. Great hit tool. Very exciting.
Yeah, it's cool seeing Jimmy Crooks finally get credited as a top 100 guy by a major outlet. It feels like he's been one of the most underrated prospects in the system for quite some time now. And it's cool to see him finally get the recognition for it Absolutely. After the kind of season that he had. Crooks is someone that's got such a sweet stroke at the plate. He's one of the top line drive hitters in minor league baseball. His 31.8% line drive rate actually ranked 3rd best in minor league baseball in 2024. He does a tremendous job at avoiding mishits. So the profile is there for him to be a high BABIP guy. Crooks has solid raw power, but his line drive approach is it's going to carry to more, gap to gap power rather than, the pull side kind of power that he's going to get. I don't see him hitting for a ton of home runs just because of that. I think it's more of a line drive kind of approach that's going to lead to gap power rather than home run power. But I think Crooks is someone that this past year, he really burst onto the scene with the 321, 410, 498 slash line, winning Texas League Most Valuable Player of the Year. The Cardinals have actually won 3 consecutive Texas League MVPs and 4 over the last 5. Dylan Carlson, 2019, Moises Gomez in 2022, 2023, and now, Crooks in 2024. And he was also named Cardinals. Yeah, and he was also named Cardinals Minor League Player of the Year for 2024. So just a great season for Jimmy Crooks. It's good to see him get the recognition from a major outlet like Baseball Prospectus. And yeah, it should be fun to see what he's able to do in 2025 at Memphis. I'm sure he's going to be playing there for most of the season, maybe get a cup of coffee in the major leagues, depending on, what the catching situation is there. I think Wilson Contreras moving on to first base definitely clears up more space, but you've still obviously got, Pedro Pajes and Ivan Herrera at the major league level. So we'll see. I think Jimmy Crooks is someone that could potentially move Pedro Pajes a little bit out of the way. I think his defensive skills are, pretty good from what I've seen. I think he's someone that pitchers love throwing to. I think his blocking and framing abilities seem adequate to me. He threw out 33% of base stealers in 2024 as well. So I think the defensive promise is there as well. Obviously, without access to minor league defensive data, it can be tough to properly evaluate defensive skills. But I think Crooks is someone that will be an adequate defensive catcher. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what Crooks is capable of at the major league level. As I said, like the line drive ability is really what carries the profile. I think this is someone that's going to hit for a high BABIP at the next level. And with that, I think it's a high average. I think a solid on base percentage. I think the power is going to be fringe average. We're looking at a guy that's more of a line drive kind of hitter, as I said. But overall, I think the offensive profile is there for him to potentially be a threat, while also, the defense is promising. So overall, I think we're looking at a quality prospect with Crooks, and it's cool to see him get top 100 consideration, like I said. And yeah, that's all I got.
It's just great to hear. It's somewhat like a surplus of talent at the catching position for the Cardinals. Great to have. Maybe it does mean they can move someone in a trade. I hope it's not Ivan Herrera. He established himself well at the plate last year at the big league level. I don't know if they'd trade Jimmy Crooks. I feel like he has a lot of value to this organization specifically. I don't know. Maybe a Pedro Pages could get moved for the Cardinals. I don't know how he'd be evaluated. He's such a weird guy because for some reason the Cardinals win when Pedro Pages plays. At one point last year, he had the highest winning percentage of any catcher with 30 starts, which is just like the funniest stat ever. Like when Pedro Pages caught, the Cardinals were just way better for no reason. Like it might have just been luck. I don't know what it had to do with anything. But surplus of talent at that position, just fantastic to see. So hopefully they keep producing talented catchers. We'll see. You mentioned a catcher they signed in this international bonus pool. So maybe that goes really well for them. We're going to get into our mailbag now, though. So we've got some exciting questions from you guys. Definitely a lot of fun stuff to talk about. First question here comes from Clayton Hopfinger. It says, what are some areas that gave Darlin Saladin so much success last season? International signee we get to talk about. And what type of future/ceiling do you see for him?
Yeah, so Saladin is someone that's got one of the best fastballs in the organization. It's a pitch that averages about 93 miles an hour, but he generates solid ride, 16 inches of ride from a 5.4 vertical release. So it's a low vertical release, solid amount of ride. He's one of those low launch pitchers that the Cardinals have seemed to love over the past few years. And I think the calling card with him is clearly that fastball, the amount of ride he's able to generate from a low vertical release. It gave hitters troubles this past year, especially considering his outstanding command of the pitch that he had up in the zone. The pitch had a negative 3.9 degree vertical approach angle, which was one of the flattest in the FSL in 2024. Saladin also throws a gyro slider at 81 miles an hour. I'd like to see this pitch thrown a bit harder. And he also throws a fringe average changeup, but I think overall improving the secondaries, the slider, the changeup, potentially he can add another pitch to his arsenal, is going to be key in his development. I think the fastball is already there. And he's already shown great feel for a pitch that he commands exceptionally up in the zone. I think this year is going to be a lot more telling into what the future holds for him. I think he's got the potential to be a back of the rotation kind of guy, or potentially even like a middle relief option out of the bullpen, but he could take some big steps up this year. Obviously seeing the development of his secondaries is going to be pivotal for him. But I love the fastball with Saladin. Could he add some velocity to it? Sure. But I think it's a quality offering right now, even at 93. So yeah, I think right now, if I had to say, like probably back of the rotation, middle relief kind of projection, but he can obviously improve that with if he can add to his breaking stuff, improve that slider, changeup. But as of right now, I think, either back of the rotation or middle relief option, I would say.
It's still super exciting to be able to project a guy like that to make any sort of impact at all at the big league level. So obviously that's really good stuff. Now, before we get to our next question, we've got a brief message from some of our sponsors. 314 is proud to be the presenting sponsor of Deal on the Cards. And of Birds on the Farm. They're located at 9640 on Olive Boulevard in Olivet. They're open 10 to 5 Monday through Friday and 9 to 4 on Saturday. They buy and sell and trade all sorts of sports cards, Pokemon cards, really any collectible cards. They have the newest selection of packs, boxes, and single cards, whether you're talking about local players. I know Andrew was looking for an Irving Lopez rookie card, or you're talking about stars like Andrew's favorite, Shohei Ohtani. Anyone around the league, really, they've got great stuff. So go check out 314. Go in there. Devin owns the place. He's awesome, super cool guy, really fun to talk to. Tell him we sent you. It's just a ton of fun to be there. And then also, we're proud to be partnering with Underdog Sports, our favorite place to play fantasy games. You got to check out their Pick'em feature. It's really easy to play. You pick 2 to 8 stats of your favorite players, and then you choose whether they'll go higher or lower. You can multiply your money by 20 by going 5 for 5. Does that sound like fun? Sign up with the promo code CARDS to claim your first-time free pick and first-time deposit offer. They'll match up to $1,000 in bonus cash. We can't wait to see your entries. Also, if you're a little nervous about those lines, flex your pick. That's a super fun feature they've got on there. So let's say you've got 4 things. You feel really confident about 3 of them, but you want to add that 4th line. Go in there, flex it. Now, as long as you at least get 3 right, you either get your money back or you still get a positive multiplier. So again, super fun. Go check out Underdog. Promo code CARDS. You get a first free pick, and they'll match your deposit offer with bonus cash. Post your stuff on Twitter. We can't wait to see all the exciting things you guys get to do. All right, back to our questions here. Question number 2, this comes from Traumacall. It says, what does the future hold for Cho? He didn't take a big step forward last year. We're not sure about what 2025 looks like. Maybe I'm being biased. Well, I mean, yeah, definitely not the season we wanted to see from Cho after it felt like he got a lot of offseason hype. Kareem, what do you think about that?
Yeah, following a season where he had a 114 WRC plus as a 19-year-old at Palm Beach, Cho struggled at Peoria. The WRC plus went down to an 81. Obviously don't like seeing that, but he's still a young player. I think he's still got a lot of exciting tools. I thought his batted ball profile was similar to what we had seen at Palm Beach, but yeah. I think the biggest thing with him was like that strikeout rate. It increased like almost 10%. To Peoria. The whiff rates were higher. I thought that some of his pitch recognition, specifically against breaking and off-speed stuff, it was a concern. And the whiff rates, like I said, weren't great. Now, with the kind of profile that Cho possesses, he's more of a line drive kind of hitter, approach to all fields, doesn't really have that pull side kind of power, despite, solid raw power potential. I think the strikeout rate just needs to come down with him. It's got to be closer to that 20% that it was at Palm Beach. Now, like, I do like his ability to hit line drive, spray the ball. He's someone similar to Jimmy Crooks in that aspect where he doesn't pop out a lot. This is a high BABIP kind of guy, but I think he needs to do a better job at just making contact, avoiding strikeouts for that BABIP to play better. And I think that's what I'm going to be looking to see, this coming season. And, I do think that he'll be back at Peoria, just considering he did struggle there a bit and he's still young. So we'll just see. I think I'll be definitely paying attention to the contact skills if he's able to take a step up in that regard, improve his pitch recognition, because I think he's got a lot of talent, but he's got to be able to show a decent ability to make contact and, reduce the strikeout rate for the profile to hit.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the most exciting international free agents the Cardinals have signed in a while. And that's because he'd already built up kind of a social media presence beforehand. Some people knew who he was. He had some good showings at like a power showcase, for example. But yeah, this question is absolutely right. And you're right too, Kareem. Like, while he didn't take the big step forward, I think a lot of people hoped. You couldn't project growth like that. He's still really, really young. We're still talking about a guy with lots of projectability, exciting tools. I really do hope that there's a role for Cho on this roster at some point. I believe he can still grow and become an impact player, but we'll just have to see. So yeah, great question from Traumacall there. Our next question comes from Bill S314. It says, which injured Cardinals pitching prospect are you most excited for this year? I assume he's talking about Tekoa Roby. Maybe Tink Hence has had a lot of injuries. Or if there's another guy out there, Kareem, that you're thinking of that's not on anyone else's radar who was hurt this last year. Maybe Jerpy too. Jerpy's had injuries.
Yeah, I think Jerpy and Roby are the obvious names.
Yeah.
You want to see those two guys stay healthy, because when they've been on the
100%.
field, you see why, Cardinals fans are so excited with them.
Jerpy
The
especially.
stuff is, yeah, the stuff is intriguing. Jerpy, especially in terms of results.
It's him.
What? Yeah,
Elite
just his
pop out
ability.
rate.
Yeah, it's crazy. Just the ability, not just the strikeout ability, but his ability to limit damage as well. So
Yeah.
Jerpy and Roby are the obvious names, but some other guys that were injured that I'm excited about watching. Firstly, Andrew Dudkanich. He was the Cardinals' 7th-round pick this past year. He's got a mid-90s fastball, gets 19 inches of ride on it. He's got a quality slider at 85 with elite spin rates. He's got a quality curveball as well at around 80 miles an hour, and a splitter that he just kills the spin on. It's got like 1,000 RPMs on average, with a solid movement profile as well. So I think the stuff is there for Dudkanich to be a really impact pitcher. We hadn't seen him a lot at Vanderbilt. He was hurt, dealt with Tommy John, but hopefully we can see him healthy in the Cardinals organization. I'm not sure what to expect as far as his ability to just command the ball, but I think his stuff is intriguing, and I'll definitely be keeping a close eye on Dudkanich, because I think, I think he's got the kind of stuff and the pitches to work out of a rotation. I'm not sure what to expect as far as that. Like, are the Cardinals going to use this guy solely as a relief pitching option? Or is this someone that they're going to develop as a starter? I'd like to see him be developed as a starter, just considering all the pitches that he has, but we'll see. I think he's got intriguing stuff. I think he's the one guy that I'm going to be, the one injured pitcher that I'm going to be watching in 2025 that might be a little bit under the radar, just considering, Jerpy and Roby seem to be the obvious names in that regard. But I want to throw around a couple other names. Alec Willis is someone that a few years back, he was an intriguing prospect that the Cardinals got. And he's pitched a couple innings at Palm Beach in 2024, but was injured for most of the season. And he's been injured pretty much his whole professional career now. Willis is someone that, like I said, he was an intriguing prep prospect. He was someone that, flashed mid-90s, showed quality secondary pitches. But I think the one calling card with him is his ability to get down the mound. The extension is crazy with him. It's 7.8 feet of extension, which helped to play his pitches appear. His pitches appear a little harder than, what they actually are. I thought that in the time that we saw him at Palm Beach, the velocity wasn't quite what we had seen when he was a prep prospect. It was down a little bit, and then him obviously being hurt. So hopefully he can stay healthy and show the promise that he had as a prep prospect, because I think he's got a lot of fun traits. Him being able to have 7.8 feet of extension, I mean, that would rank amongst the top in Major League Baseball. So that's definitely a quality trait that he possesses that I'm really interested to see just him, be able to utilize that in game, because we just haven't seen him pitch. But I think he's a intriguing arm, someone that had promise in the past that we just haven't seen him pitch enough. So those are a couple of guys. And then one last name I'll mention, Jacob Odle. He's a relief pitching prospect that the Cardinals drafted a couple of years ago. Odle is someone that's got a mid-90s fastball, got intriguing breaking stuff, but he's another guy we just haven't seen him pitch. So hopefully he can stay healthy, because I think the stuff, much like someone like Dudkanich, I think the stuff is there for him to be an impact pitcher, but he's just got to stay healthy. And, hopefully the command numbers are, up to par with the stuff, because I think he could be a really fun arm for this organization.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that'd be nice for the Cardinals this year is just health throughout the system. They've had so many prospects derailed by injury, and I'm sure fans of every organization feel that way. But just to think of some of the big names that the Cardinals have had struggle with injury after injury, and it's like, what could these guys, like, what could Alex Reyes have been if not for the repeated injuries? And even like players farther down in the system, obviously Tink Hence has had his fair share of injuries, but even look at like an Ian Bedell, a guy who like had some talent coming out of the draft, and like 3 years in a row just derailed by injuries. Now he's healthy. Had a great year in 2023, just all right last year. So we'll see what he can become. But it'd be really nice for us to see a full season of Jerby, Hence, and Roby, although not sure if you can ever project that at this point. One more question here. This comes from Ben, Mailbag Question here. What do you think of Geoff Pontes comparing JJ Wetherholt to Alex Bregman? Also, what are your thoughts on Baseball America being so high on Yairo Padilla?
Okay, so starting off with the first question.
Yeah.
So Geoff Pontes compared JJ Wetherholt to Alex Bregman. I think that's a solid comparison. I will say I don't think JJ Wetherholt's got the ability to hit the ball to his pull side the way that Bregman has, and we've seen
Yeah.
him have some really solid years in terms of how home runs hitting in that
Power
park.
production, but also the Crawford boxes could help with Bregman too.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm not sure if we're looking at that kind of power projection with JJ Wetherholt. I think the raw power is certainly there with Wetherholt, but it's more of a hit the ball to all fields kind of approach, someone that's going to be hitting more line drives than home runs to his pull side. So definitely will be keeping my tabs on this. I think Weatherholt's got impressive raw power, and we've seen him, hit some balls really
Oh
hard.
yeah.
But for him to really tap into that, he's going to have to hit the ball in the air to his pull side more, which I'm not sure if, the Cardinals should, drastically, change his profile. Like I think there's a lot to be had with that hit the ball to all fields kind of profile. And I think he's going to be someone that projects to have a high on base percentage. Obviously, when you have that kind of raw power, you want to see more power production. We were just talking about a guy like Juan Ben Cho that hits the ball hard, but doesn't necessarily have the power production to, manifest that entirely. But I think, these players' profiles are so different. Like, not every guy that's going to hit the ball hard is going to be doing it in a way that they're going to get it out to their pull side and manifest it in game entirely. So I'm not sure. As far as power, we can look at Alex Bregman, but I think as far as someone that has a solid approach, makes a lot of contact, has some of that raw power, I like the comp. I don't know if we can look at it as like a 1-to-1 comp, but I think that kind of player, I could definitely see him projecting to be someone like that. But the power production, we should probably expect it to be a little bit less than Alex Bregman, I would say.
Yeah.
And now to answer that second question on Yairo Padilla, Padilla is someone that, scouts love, what he was able to do at the DSL. The results might not have, exploded the way like someone like Reinel Rodriguez, who had close to a 1200 OPS down there, but Padilla is someone that they project to add power. He's got the frame to add some power to his game. He was making a lot of contact. They like the defensive instincts at shortstop and his ability to stay there long term. So it'll be fun to see Padilla stateside at, playing in the complex. But I think he's more of a long-term project than someone that I know Baseball America already has him inside the top 10. I don't know how to feel about that, to be honest, just because this is someone that has a lot of projection in his game left to hit that ceiling. But I think he's a very intriguing player. And I think he's definitely someone that Cardinals fans should definitely be paying attention to, see what he's able to do at the complex, and if he gets a chance at Palm Beach, because I think he's got a lot of intriguing raw, like his raw skill set is there for him to be an impact player. But I think the developing is really going to have to come along with someone like Padilla for him to hit his ceiling.
Yeah, to break down the first things you said, especially the Alex Bregman conversation, I'm more qualified to weigh in there for sure than on Padilla. I think it's really hard to project anybody to have Bregman-like production, and that's why it's exciting to see someone make that comp. And it says, this is a player that we're excited about, and we think he could someday be in all-star conversations. Like, if you look at what Bregman's done throughout his career, he basically in 2018 and 2019 averaged over 80 extra base hits a year for 2 years. Like, that's absurd. He had right here a 51 double season in 2018 that led the American League, actually led all of baseball, and then also had a 30 homer year that year. And the following year, a 40 homer year, drew 119 walks, which led all of baseball, also led all of baseball in B-WAR, finished second in AL MVP voting, a 162 OPS plus, a 1 dot OPS, 1.015. Like, that's insane production. Now, Bregman's taken a step back since then. Following years, 1.1 WAR in the shortened season in 2021, missed half of 2020, or in shortened 2020, missed half of 2021, still put up 2.1 WAR though, and then has been right around 4.5 each of the last 3 years. Still a very valuable player, and a guy that like low key might be on a potential Hall of Fame track. Talking about a guy that's got roughly 40 WAR and he just turned 30 this year. Like that's an insane player to potentially live up to. So very exciting to see JJ Wetherholt even in the same conversation as a guy like Alex Bregman. But at the same time, like a lot of establishing will have to take place before anyone, can say, oh, that guy's right. But yeah, I love to see the love for JJ. I remember at one point, like, yeah, the raw power is probably there. Like, you're right, though. I don't know about the in-game power, but I remember when he first debuted in the Cardinals system, it was like he was allergic to hitting balls under 100 miles an hour. Like everything was hit hard, even lineouts, deep flyouts. So it's just good to see. JJ Wetherholt, where do you see his ceiling for the Cardinals? Do you see him having potential like all-star, maybe even down ballot MVP support at some point in his career? What's the ceiling here?
Yeah, I think it's all-star kind of potential with
That's
Wetherholt.
awesome.
I don't know if he's ever going to be like an 8 WAR kind of player that,
like that's
Alex
also
Bregman.
an outlier season for Bregman too.
Yeah, like I'm not sure just because of the power. I think for him to be that much of an impact player, I think some of the power production is going to have to be there, and I still don't know like what to expect as far as power. Probably not. I don't think Wetherholt's ever going to be a guy that's hitting 40 home runs, to be honest.
Yeah,
like Bregman had.
That's a huge number.
But like the bat to ball skills, as far as just putting the bat on the barrel and being a high BABIP kind of guy, whereas Bregman, he's not the highest of BABIP kind of, like he's more of he sells out to his pull side for that power.
Yeah.
So in that aspect, like they're different kind of players. But so I will say like the ceiling of a guy like Wetherholt might be a little bit less than Bregman, but I think we're looking at like a potential, all-star kind of ceiling with someone like JJ Wetherholt. And that's obviously exciting because I don't think the Cardinals minor league system has many of those guys, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. The Cardinals need him to work out. They need him to stay healthy. So if there's anything you want to happen in the new year, make it health for the Cardinals organization, please. But I think that's all for us today. This was a super fun episode. We had a lot of fun stuff to talk about, some Cardinals news, and then some questions from you guys, our viewers. If there's anything you want answered, if you didn't get your question answered today, we're sorry we couldn't get to everything. But please keep sending it in. Ask us new questions. We really love any interaction with you guys as well. Feel free to message us on Twitter. Just add us if you want any, especially Kareem, man. If you want breakdowns of anything, like talk to Kareem. He's the best in the business. So again, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys on our next Birds on the Farm. And we've got a ton of exciting stuff loaded up for the rest of this offseason. And I mean, I'm looking at the calendar. We're about a month from pitchers and catchers reporting. So baseball's right around the corner. We only have a few more of these offseason episodes, and then we can get back to discussing real results, real news with you guys, and we'll have it first. So we'll have it here as soon as anywhere else has it. All right. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next time.